Hello, my name is Mark Juarez, and I'm from the Happy Company. And yesterday I talked about following a dream. Let me tell you about one of the dreams I did follow, and it's on this book, Charlie's Thinking Cheese. Where, well, let me tell you how the book came to be, but just a little bit about the book, why it was so important to me. Charlie is a mouse. How Charlie came to be was that I when I was learning massage and I was living in Berlin, I had a girlfriend. And she lived in this, well, I thought it was a really cool apartment, but it was a little dingy. It was, and she went off to work and I said, I'm going to paint the kitchen. I'm going to make it really beautiful in here. And so I painted the kitchen and she, she loved sweets. Germany has the best cakes and sweets and bread than anywhere in the world. It's just insane. Well, probably France. Europe has the best. And she bought 3 pieces of cheesecake. And the night before, and we had dinner and we each had a cheesecake. And there was a third slice left over. And I said, I know you love it. I'm saving it for you. We'll put it in the refrigerator. Well, after I'm painting, I'm getting hungry. And I looked in the refrigerator. Oh, that cheesecake looked irresistible. So I thought, I'm just going to take a really thin slice. She won't know it. And then it was so good. And the taste stayed. And then I just took another thin slice and another. It got so small. And then I thought, oh, this is crazy. I'm so embarrassed now. I should just finish it. But I'm painting. And I saw in the baseboard of the thing a little hole like this. And it looked like it should be a door to a mouse hole. And I got this idea, and so I put a little name above it, and I said Charlie, and I was hoping she would forget about the cheesecake. When she came home that night, I'm like, honey, I'm going to make you dinner. It's going to be amazing. She said, oh, it was a tough day at work. All I want is just cheesecake and champagne. I thought about that cheesecake all day. I just want cheesecake and champagne. And I'm like, oh, no, you got to start with dinner. I just made this great dinner. And she's like, oh, no, I want to start with cheesecake and champagne. And I was embarrassed. And I said, oh, here's what happened. I was painting and I met this little guy. Have you met Charlie? And she's like, who's Charlie? And I said, you don't know Charlie? He's a little mouse. He lives there. See that little hole, that little thing? And it said Charlie above it. And she said, wait, who's Charlie? There's a mouse named Charlie? And you talk to him? And yeah. And he loves cheesecake. He went into the refrigerator. You should have seen him. This little mouse with this massive piece of cheesecake, and he brought it back to his house. And she just said, oh, you're an adorable dork, but that's how Charlie came to be. But I also had a dream. And I wrote this book, Charlie's Thinking Cheese. And I started thinking about business, about life. And sometimes it's easier to take our life's lessons and turn it into a fable. And that's what this book is. Well, Charlie is the star of the book. And it starts out in the 1920s during the Great Depression. And there's a Grandpa Henry, or Henry at the time, had no money. He lost his job. His family was just trying to think how to eat. And Charlie the Mouse saw they were so poor that they didn't even have enough food for him, and he eats just a tiny bit. He had to help them. But back then, if you have a mouse in the house, Henry said that means you're really poor, and they were trying to knock him off. And Charlie was understanding. People just don't understand mice, but he still wanted to help them. And he goes through the whole house looking for a solution, and he thought he found it. He starts in the attic and he goes all the way through the house. But when he got in the basement, he saw a little crack from the door where the light came in, and it was shining on some packets. And he thought, wait a moment, that must be it. And he goes and he examines the packets, and it was a packet of seeds, lots of seeds. And he didn't know what they were, but they looked like they were seeds to vegetables. And he thought, that's it. I'll plant a vegetable garden and there'll be enough food for everybody. And so he goes out in the backyard and there's weeds everywhere, and he takes down the weeds at night because he's got to work under the shadows of darkness so that nobody sees him. And he starts taking down the weeds and he starts planting the seeds, and he starts watering it and planting them, and he's just envisioning this beautiful garden is going to start to grow and grow. And he loves food, and he's just like, oh, it's just going to be an arugula. It was his favorite. You know, he loves arugula, and he planted arugula, and he's just like, oh, this is the best. And meanwhile, Henry is trying to knock off this mouse, and but he's looking out every night, and he's seeing how the garden's transforming, and he's like, how is this happening? And he suddenly realizes it's the mouse, and what grows are these vegetables, and that mouse was growing vegetables for him. And he's like, wait a moment, I was trying to kill this mouse, but that mouse was trying to save her lives by planting vegetables. Anyway, the story's about when you sometimes people just don't understand you, but it doesn't stop you from helping them. Soon they'll figure it out. And that's was meant to be in the beginning of the chapters, the lesson. And then Henry realized, if this mouse did this for us, what could he do for our neighbors? And they started helping their neighbors. And it was a magical story. It is a magical story of how when one neighbor helps and he starts helping his neighbors, and he's saying, look at his next door neighbor, their porch was falling apart. And he said, Mabel, you're going to fall through that porch one day. Well, let me fix it for you. And she's like, Henry, I have no money. He says, I don't want money. We're neighbors. We got to help each other. And so he fixes her porch. And she's like, oh, Henry, I can't pay you. No, I don't want your money. But she said, Henry, I've got some apples in the backyard, more than I can eat. Would you take some apples? And Henry's like, oh my gosh, I would love some apples. So now they have vegetables from Charlie planting the garden, and they've got apples. And then he goes to a neighbor and he fixes his plumbing. And he says, Henry, I can't pay you. And he says, that's okay. He says, but Henry, I got sacks and sacks of beans, more than I can eat. Would you like some beans? And Henry's like, wow, that would be amazing. So now we have apples and beans and all these vegetables from Charlie. And soon they start helping all their neighbors. And the neighbors, everybody contributes in a different way. That's the magic of a community. We all have unique skills, but we can contribute in different ways. That's the beginning of the book. And then fast forward, it comes to today, because this first took place in the 1920s during the Great Depression. And Charlie is a magical mouse. He's still living today, and he's still bright. And, well, I'll let you read the story that happened today, but a hint was that his granddaughter, Charlie's living with the granddaughter, and Mitch, her husband, lost his job. And he's really depressed, and the granddaughter's like, I don't know what to do. And she goes to Charlie, because he's this very old but very wise mouse now. And it's called thinking cheese, because when Charlie was confronted with a problem, he always liked to nibble on a piece of cheese and really think about it. And so that was his thinking cheese. And he was nibbling on cheese, and he was walking around the garden thinking, what could he do for Mitch? And then he realized, he came back and he said, I've got the answer. Let's plant a garden. And she said, oh, he hates gardening. And Charlie said, it's okay. And we're not hungry. We've got plenty of food. And Charlie said, it's okay. Just plant the garden and see the magic that happens. And she said, I trust you, Charlie, but I don't understand. Mitch hates garden. We have plenty of food. Why am I doing this? And Charlie insisted, just plant the garden. He's a very wise mouse. So she does. And suddenly magic happens. A little girl next door who lost her mother comes and says, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm planting a garden. Do you want to help?" She said, "Oh, I'd love to help." So she comes and helps. And there's a couple of young guys walking by and they see this young girl and they're like, "What are you doing?" And she said, "We're planting a garden. Do you want to help?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so they come and help. And then suddenly these two older men come by and they're like, "What are you guys doing?" And she said, "Well, we're planting a garden." And they said, "We love gardening. Do you guys, we know gardening really well. Can we help?" And she said, "Yeah." Now she's starting to see the magic of what's going on. And I'm telling too much of the story. You will have to read the book. But suddenly, some real magic happens. And everything in life is an analogy. But one thing that's really amazing is there's also in the book appreciation cards and inspiration cards and inspiration notes. And they all play a magical part in this transformation that this little mouse does. It's a magical gift set. And we think it can change the world. And today, something really magical happened. We are storing these, and we just got a bunch of them. We were storing in the warehouse, and the man who's running the warehouse is so unbelievably generous. I was having a real struggle, and literally, how kind and how amazing people can be. Sometimes we don't understand a small act of kindness, a small act of generosity can absolutely change the world for somebody. Don't underestimate the things we do in our lives. As quoted in this book often, as Maya Angelou said, we may forget, I don't remember how the quote goes exactly, but something like, what we remember the most is the way somebody made us feel. A small act of kindness can have such a huge impact on someone's life years and years later. And that's the magic of what we're trying to create. The book is magical. I hope one day you can get one. It's full of just magical little phrases. Thanks so much. I hope you can get one and enjoy it.